Welcome to the Dream 100 Show, the epicenter of influence, collaboration, and exponential growth. You're about to discover the power of relationships. Dream 100 relationships. And you're one relationship away from a totally different business and life. This is your host, Michael Tasner.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Dream 100 Show. Today's topic is about the price of entry. Over the last couple of years, there's a board game that I played when I was younger that I continue to play and self-reflect on, and a game that has taught me so much about life and business that it literally should be its own course in college. And that game is Monopoly. So I've learned about investing in real estate. I've learned about dividends. I've learned about having to have patience. I've learned about negotiation. So when you're negotiating with other players so that you can kind of complete your 2 or 3 houses or your 2 or 3 colors so you can put houses and continue to kind of grow from there. So the art of negotiation. I've also learned that you can completely get derailed by landing on a chance, landing on a community chest, if you are not prepared. And I'm such a fan of the game that I have bought a bunch of the artwork that has different sayings on it. And I was preparing some topics over the last couple of weeks. I like to look a couple of weeks in advance of like, what do I want to teach about? What do I want to give you some examples and some things that you can put into place? And I kept looking back at this piece of art, and it says success. So what is the price of entry to obtain success? Now, success is a relative phrase because it's something different for everyone. Your definition of success could mean $20 million in the bank, hundreds of team members, whereas someone else's definition could be $100,000 a year in income and living a happy, healthy life. Like, everyone can have drastically different definitions. But on the piece of art, it mentions a variety of words: hustle, execution, discipline, ambition, sacrifice, failure, and focus. Now, there are plenty of other words that could be put into that basket of success or put into that price of entry. But it's interesting because I've been having conversation after conversation after conversation with people that listen to the show, subscribe to the newsletter, work with us in some capacity, have read the book, and they push back and they say, when? Like, when is it going to happen for me? When am I going to land my first Dream 100 relationship? When am I going to be able to add more podcast interviews? When will that podcast turn into a Dream 100 relationship? It's this conversation of when. And I pause and I ask a lot of different questions. But when I've looked at all of those different words, I don't completely agree with every single word that's on that board. The word hustle for me has never been an amazing word that I don't believe personally in the hustle culture. I'm also not a huge fan of making sacrifices when it comes to kind of personal things that are having to be sacrificed for business. And there's a lot of conflicting thoughts around that, and I could get into a whole big debate, but the way that I've chosen to live my life and grow my businesses is I put family first. I could be making a ton more money if I worked 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week, every single week, and I didn't go to any of my kids' activities. I mean, as I'm shooting this now, I'm currently in Delaware for a baseball tournament for my son who plays 15U travel baseball. And I've been here all week, 5 days. And while I've been able to work a little bit in the mornings and the evenings to kind of check in on the team and check in on emails and things like that, I could easily have sacrificed me going on this trip, stayed home and just worked. And I probably could have made a lot more money or done some launches or done something to help me move that needle. But when I circle back to the original statement of success and the price of entry, To me, you get to determine what that price of entry is. So when you start to say, when is this going to happen? I want you to start to think through and look at all of those different pieces. Are you executing the strategy to the nth degree? Do you have it visualized? Do you have it where you can see it and you can feel it, you can taste like having that level of success, which to me is ambition? Have you taken some shots and failed? If you haven't failed on any of these relationships, if you haven't got some rejection, you're in for a rude and a large awakening. But that focus element to me, out of all of these, I mean, execution obviously is needed, but focus is the area that I wanted to spend a little bit more time on. When I've looked at and analyzed step by step by step, show me what you have done. The lack of focus is where most people are going astray. And I can tell you firsthand that this is one of the things that drives me astray. You get shiny object syndrome. You start looking at, oh my gosh, I want to do this. You start moving the needle on one particular niche. Then you change course. You go over here. You jump all over the place. But the tough love that I want to give you, and this is an interesting one across the industry of kind of education. When I'm referring to education, I'm referring to people like myself that teach and train and mentor and give you a playbook. The students that I have seen that have executed and focused and attained the level of success that they have desired are the ones that take the strategy, they take the framework, and they deploy it step by step by step. They deploy it exactly as designed. Now, unfortunately, business owners, marketers, we think we know everything. So we say, well, I like that, but I'm going to change up these three things. I like what he's suggesting about gifts, but I don't think that we should send a $50 gift. I think we should send a $5 or $10 gift and do it to 500 people instead of doing it to a smaller group of people. If you want to have the level of success that you desire, you need to pay the price of entry. And that means executing and focusing. That means lasering in, going through the motions day after day after day, but knowing that things are going to start to drop. That law of attraction in tandem with the law of reciprocity, in tandem with things like the tipping point, things eventually start to drop. But if you're not willing to pay the price of entry, if you're not willing to have some skin in the game, and that's the one where I'm getting in a lot of really crazy conversation. So if you take the 100 number and you know that the goal is to send every one of those at the very least 2 to 4 gifts, and let's just pick a round number and say the gifts are $50. If you're not willing to pay the price of entry to say, I'm willing to invest first round 100 times 50, and you wouldn't have to necessarily deploy all 100 right out of the gate. But let's say you're going to do 30. And I'm getting this crazy pushback from I don't want to invest $1,500. What if it doesn't work? If you're not willing to fail a little bit, if you're not willing to stay the course, then you have no business to deploy this strategy at all. Like, I get to see it from all different angles. So the Dream 100 is one of my businesses. I've got a marketing agency, and I see it all day, every day from business owners. Is this going to work? How do I know that it's going to work? What happens if I'm out all this money? What is the cost on the other side of you doing absolutely nothing? Like, I get people that come to us all the time that are losing 20, 30, 40, 50. Got one business that was losing $100,000 a month. And then I say, show me all the things that you've done. Show me all the kind of pay the piper. Show me the price of entry that you've done to make sure that you've hit your level of success. And then I look at those different things: hustle, execution, having discipline, making some sacrifices, failing, having a huge lasered focus. And things are missing. They're missing. They may be executed for a week or two and then they change course. They went over to that shiny object and then tried that for 3 months. That didn't work. They jumped over here. They tried that. Some things they knew they were supposed to execute, they didn't do. If you want to have the level of success that you have in your mind, Step one is you need to make sure that you have crystal clarity on what that is. And I've done several different episodes talking about getting clear on what do you actually want. And I can tell you heart to heart that I don't even know perfectly exactly what I want. I'm going through a little bit of a transition right now where I'm continuing to get clearer and clearer week after week after week of exactly what do I want so that I know when I move to full execution, when I move to full focus, that I'm all in and I can see it, taste it, feel it. Otherwise, on the other side, you're just going to be going through the motions. But I want you to take a look and see if you're saying, I'm not where I want to be, I'm not getting the results that I want. Have you paid the price of entry? Have you been deploying this framework for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months? Are you investing in gifts? Do you know the lifetime value of a client, a customer, a new relationship from one of these Dream 100 referral partners? What is that dollar value? And then you need to find a way to make sure that you are executing and laser focused to the nth degree to get you on that path. You can look up study after study after study that shows people that quit too early. I've been there. I've done that many times where I've quit too early, and had I continued to go, maybe the next day something would have changed drastically and then it would have started rolling. I quit and I folded the cards and sold my first marketing agency that I started when I was literally 15 years old, 15, 16. Grew it from nothing to a 7-figure marketing agency. Took me a while to do that, I think like 10 years. But again, I started when I was 15 and I quit too early. And on the other side of that, had I continued going, that probably would have turned into an 8-figure business. But I started losing focus. I stopped executing at the level that I needed. I stopped having the discipline to say no to certain things. I can tell you that if you continue to stick with this strategy, it will pay off dividends unlike anything that you have ever imagined. Next week, I'm going to talk about a strategy that you can add in tandem to the Dream 100 to help alleviate some of that time delay. So as you know, the Dream 100 formula takes some time to execute. Takes some time to work. It takes some time to marinate. But I'm going to give you a strategy that you can deploy that can actually start to drive some quick wins in the first 60 to 90 days. But your big takeaway for today is to take a step back and see, are you actually paying the price of entry to have the level of success that you want? Yes or no? And if no, the only way you're going to get it is to start paying the price of entry, starting to have that high level of execution, that laser focused. You're going to have to start failing. Then and only then will you start to have that level of success that you know in your heart of hearts you can achieve. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'll see you next week.